I'm scared to have conversations with other people. You just start. You just do it. You just keep doing it. And once you start doing those things, you build a lot more confidence in it, and the fear shrinks. Like, I was scared to death, right? Because I have it on both cheeks. I was scared to death to do this the first time and the second time and the third time. But now, but all of a sudden, that fear, that self-doubt, that insecurity shrinks, and it becomes replaced by empowerment. And oh yeah, I can do these things. And oh
and
yeah,
self-trust and congruence and readiness.
I am obsessed with an idea that you have in the book about how all the hard things are going to, like we started with that quote, they're either going to break you or they're going to make you. And really that's up to you. And the stories you share in the book are really, they draw you in with they're both entertaining because they're well written and well told. They're gut wrenching at times because I can imagine what it would be like to go through that. But they act ultimately as a yellow brick road in a way that I found very enticing in your book. And one of the bricks on the yellow brick road was that your father was an alcoholic. And you said something in the book that I was really impacted by, given my wife, Lisa, and what she's like. You said, my dad loved me, and he was a kind and gentle man who quietly struggled with alcoholism. And the way that you described that was very generous. And you said, but there were times that you would sit and stare at the clock, and because you had to wait for him to wake up, which your mom would be off working. And so sometimes it could be hours of waiting for him to wake up, and he would wake up, or you would get to the time where you were allowed to wake him up, and then he would ask you for an hour or two. And then I just imagine you sitting there watching the clock flip until he finally gets up and you guys can hang out. And in that you said, my dad inadvertently taught me that women are superheroes that have to be stronger than men, because that's what my mom was, a superhero who was essentially doing everything by herself. And I was like, I know that it is, Jamie, I don't wish difficulties on anybody. But man, when they're looked at from the right lens, they make pretty extraordinary people. So that's a story you tell early in the book. The yellow brick road then leads to a photo of you and 7 of your friends, so you and 6 other people. And you break down. Every one of you guys has overcome. It's almost absurd. The fact that out of 7, 2 of you were adopted. There's breast cancer. There's learning difficulty. I mean, it was crazy. And yet, each and every one of them is absurdly successful. How do people harness difficulties like that to become something powerful instead of, leaning into the victim side, which anybody would understand, people pulling the victim card from that? But how do you pull something else?
The very first and most important thing on how is you have to want to. And I think that every human being can easily go into victim mentality on a lot of things that have happened in all of our lives, right? And it's a mentality that actually can, I think, reward you in a lot of ways, and also become a justification too for staying inside your comfort zone when it comes to things like going after your dreams. And it makes sense for a lot of people, right? And again, I think there's a time. I mean, I'm not going to speak to people that, I'm not going to speak to a lot of the really hard things that require a lifetime of work to figure out. What I will say is therapy is the best thing I've ever done in really understanding this. And I actually talk about that.
Does it allow you to recontextualize? Is that the idea?
Yeah. And to understand it at a deep level. And by the way, your show, like this conversation, to me, these are the things that are so important that we invest in ourselves and do, right? Because I don't want to stay in a place where it can be easy to stay at in my life. I think that the quote you started out with, when these tough times happen, do you warrior up or do you victim up? Do you level up or do you give up, right? The up is up to you. And I do believe why I share the story of my 7 closest friends is because I think this is important. I think a lot of people out there are like me and maybe have loving family, loving friends, But if you were to turn the volume up on all of them and they were to be your only inner circle, it'd be really easy for self-doubt to take over. It'd be really easy to dim your own light. And I talk about my journey of how I chose my circle around me. And it's never based on a commonality of life experience. It's my closest friends. And I think this is important for everyone listening, because a lot of people are like, oh, I don't have an inner circle that empowers me. How do I find one? I would say Impact Theory and Impact Theory University, that alone can be a part of your inner circle. That's a voice and conversations and information that you want to turn the volume up on. And I talk about this because I think this is universal for everyone and so important to do this. A lot of times people build their circle of friends based on who they went to school with, or things they have in common and all the stuff, right? Maybe it's a group of people from work because you're around them all the time, whatever it is. And I think that that's not always the right thing. I think who your circle is so important. And for me, I go deep on this in the book and talk about each one of their stories, because I want to drive the point home that who you do surround yourself with, and when you judge them by their heart and how they pour into you and champion you and don't tell you this crap you just because you want to hear it, they tell you the real truth, which is so important. They don't get jealous when you're flying high. They want you to fly higher. I talk about this commonality of traits, and yet my closest group of friends have literally almost nothing in common. Their backgrounds are so different. They have different faiths and no faith. They one of them was homeless all growing up, then lived in the projects, and then figured out how to build her own circle and become an entrepreneur. And she figured out how to turn down the volume of negativity and lack of dreaming of all the people around her, for the most part, that she was raised in. And how did she turn that volume up on her own inner light? And I share this common thread, really just to inspire a mindset shift sometimes of, oh, you know what? My circle of friends, each person listening right now, my circle of friends, they don't need to think like I do, or pray like I do, or love like I do, or anything else. But if I surround myself with people that are truly telling the truth, loving me authentically, and uplifting and dreaming big with me, and calling me out on the BS when I start to talk myself out of my own truth, right? Which we all do. It's a lifelong journey. Talk about the power of finding people like that and surrounding yourself with them. And I think they can be people in real life. And I also think that they can be people that you let pour into you who maybe you've never even met, like your show for people. You know what I mean? I think that that's really powerful. Who we let speak into our lives and who we turn the volume down on but still love anyway is so important. Because one of our biggest mistakes is turning the volume up on the people just because we love them and they're our family. And then all of a sudden, that's all the noise we hear, and it impacts our whole life.
Talk to me about the ability to turn the volume up and down. That was one of the things I found really extraordinary in your book. If I were going to do a spoof of your book, it would go something like this. Somebody was really fucking mean. I cried like a motherfucker. And then I walked in the next room like a warrior. It's that over and over and over. I love that. Every time. Well, I mean, you actually have a whole chapter in the book about swinging your big balls, which we should definitely talk about. But first, give me the idea. How do you turn the volume down? When you said that earlier about the guy who said, look, people aren't going to buy makeup from somebody that looks like you. How do we grab the volume knob on something that gnarly?
Yeah. I mean, it is such a disciplined practice. It's such a skill. It's hard. I mean, just yesterday, I had someone do something that I thought was a super close friend, and I was just blindsided, and I felt so betrayed. And listen, we all go through these things, and they're hard. And one of my friends many years ago, Bob Goff is his name, he taught me this, and it just stuck. I just feel like it was so important to talk about it because this tool that Bob had taught me, where he talked about your own microphone and then the volume dial. And he basically, I imagine, right? Because, you know, that I have this microphone. Everyone listening right now, imagine you have your own microphone and you have to get into really good practice of like who you hand your microphone to and let speak into it. And what I had to learn, one example of this is, you know, my dad, who was an alcoholic, who was a good man with a really bad addiction, and loved me the best way he knew how with his own capacity. And I remember I was, you know, working, I was always super ambitious. I wanted to get a car and go travel, all the things. So I had 4 jobs in high school. And, you know, I was working, one of my jobs, I was working in a health club. And I started as a receptionist. And then they said, well, if you sell memberships, you'll make commission on those too. And I started selling a lot of memberships. And I was like, this is great. And so after high school, I didn't go to school right away. I moved out, got my own apartment. I was making like $55,000 a year, which was more than my dad at his job he'd been at. And I never forget when I made this decision I was going to go to school. I was like, okay, because I just wanted to get out, meet other people and like figure stuff out. And I remember when I told him I'm going to quit my job and I'm going to go to school. And he was mortified. He's like, what are you doing? Like, do you know how much money you're making right now? I mean, he was so upset and so worried about me that I was making a huge mistake. And so I remember even in that moment, you know, we all have experiences like that in our lives with our family, right? They're seeing things through their own lens of experience. But whether it's a story like that, or it's just a friend that you love hanging out with and you go to the gym with only, but anytime you share a hope and dream, all of a sudden you feel them lower your vibration. Like you feel it, right? Because they don't get it or they don't like it or they, whatever it is. Bob Goff taught me this, that basically you learn, oh, I'm going to take back my microphone from them on those topics, right? I'm going to talk to them about my workout today, or in my dad's case, you know, what's happening on the news or whatever. But I started learning with my own big hopes and dreams. I don't give other people my microphone who are then just going to literally lower my vibration because of their own lens of limitation. And it's the skill you develop. And when you imagine holding your own microphone, listen, we all, you know, if you are blessed to have a family or friends that you love, it's not like, you know, you want to just X them out of your life because they don't understand your hopes and dreams, but learning to just not share them all with them, hold your own microphone, talk to them about other things like what's on The Bachelor or like what's going on with whatever, right? And love them, but put those boundaries in place. And then the other thing is the volume dial, and that's big. And, you know, people have said things to us that have hurt us, probably universally. There's probably not a single person out there that hasn't had someone say something to them that hurts them deeply. And it is human nature to relive it over and over and over and over in our own head to the point where we carve a groove and it's like it starts to stick and take root. And I think it is so important mentally for me. Like every time that dude who said no one will buy makeup from you, and there were so many other rejections that I talk about in the book. You know, when I went to Sephora and felt like I didn't belong and I didn't fit in and all those things, you know, a lot of times the most hurtful words we hear are the ones we say to ourselves and the ones we make up and telling ourselves we're not enough and all that kind of stuff. And I have to be mindful and intentional and literally imagine myself when those thoughts come up, stopping them, turning down the volume, and then turning up the volume on something else until I believe it.
Yeah, you mentioned Sherry was in yesterday and she's launching something.
Well, Sherry Salata, who was the co-president of OWN, Oprah Winfrey Network, forever, and then also executive producer of the Oprah Winfrey Show. She was in our morning show yesterday, and afterwards I sent her a quick text and said, oh, I hope you're okay. I called you out. And she was, you know, one of the things she's doing is really, she spent decades all around the power of story and of sharing your story, right? Oprah is obviously the best in the world at being vulnerable enough to share her own story, her own life. And then, also all of the guests that would come on her show felt comfortable enough to actually like reveal the real and share their stories. And so human connection everywhere was formed. And it was just, obviously everyone knows the story, but, I think Oprah's one of the greatest living teachers alive right now. And Sherry's doing a whole thing now around the power of story, which is great. But so many people from the Growth Day community are sending messages, and they're talking about just the idea of sharing their story in different ways, right? And for some of us, we're not even going to share it publicly. We're just going to, for the first time, really start journaling and sharing our story with ourselves and finding our way back to ourselves. And for other people, they've never, ever taken that time to actually share their own story in any capacity, right? And
even at work or at home or with the kids.
Yeah.
I know so many parents, their kids don't know their story. I know so many people at work who literally don't know their coworker. And then what the coworkers do is we blame the coworkers. Well, they don't really know me. Well, have you ever really asked to sit them down and learn their story and share your story with them? I feel like it's a super hidden secret in personal development is exactly what you're talking about with Sherry's discussion about sharing your story is learning to verbalize who you are to people. Yeah. So they have a chance of knowing you, supporting you, loving you, cheering you on. So many people don't get the support that they want or the community they want, and then they blame other people when it's like, oh, you have to be vulnerable. You got to open that gate, babe. You got to open it up. Yeah. You got to say, this is who I am. This is what I struggle with. This is what I'm about. This is what I'm, that sharing of our stories is what you like. The human story is the story of each other, sharing our path with each other. And it's only when we think we're so different than everybody else or that other people are so different than us that they won't understand that we shut down. And then we don't share it. So I love that you are calling this out this is a personal growth principle, y'all. Share your story with your kids. Yeah. Share your story with your coworkers. Share your story if you do it like we do it for a living, So I think that's a beautiful thing. I think it's a beautiful thing.
And I think too, another part of it is so many people crave connection and crave belonging and all of that, but they fear if they share their story, they won't get that. And so they kind of show up as one of the things I shared and was talking about a lot at Influencer, actually, at your event, was it's like when we're so tempted to show up as our representative. Do you know what I mean? And even between coworkers or even in circles of friends or even, on Zoom calls, right? And it's we think in order to be accepted or feel belonging or be enough, that we need to show up as our representative of the person people want to expect of us and see so that we're like them. But really all that does is prevent real connection and real belonging and real fulfillment. So, just from your own years and years of experience with this, what's your advice on for everyone out there who is like, oh, I've never shared my real story to my own family. Like I show up at Thanksgiving and we have turkey and we try not to talk about politics and all the things, but like, it's scary. It's vulnerable to actually start sharing your story or in coworkers or in circles of friends or in, you know what I mean? So what are your tips on that for people out there that they're not going to type about this because it's embarrassing, but maybe they don't know how to start sharing their own story inside their own family with themselves in private, right? Because sometimes we don't ever do the act. We don't ever take the time to actually go, what is my story? You know what I mean? And to really do that work. And then also with coworkers.
Everything I always give advice for, and you all know I've been giving advice for a long time and I give a lot of it. So forgive me.
You're really good at it.
Forgive me for it. But everything I always come back to is this idea to have reverence for life. And let me tell you how that manifests in your question of sharing your story. I have reverence for life. What that means is I believe I'm put here for a reason. I believe that I'm guided. I personally believe in God. I believe that I have been given my life's journey as a gift. The good times, the hard times, the tragedies, the brain injuries, the broken body, The difficulties I faced in my life in every area, from bankruptcy to making it to, emotional turmoil to all the things we all face as we're trying to live a good life, all that to me is a gift. I feel that life is a gift. I have reverence for life. And when you feel like you've been given a gift, when you can really take in that, the first thing that you want to do is share, right? When you've been given too much, who has been given, we always say has a lot of responsibility. But the truth is, if you really have that generous receiving spirit, when you can receive the gift of something from someone else or from your creator, you want to share that gift. And so coming out of the holidays like we have, the way I think about it is my life, your life it's a gift. Your journey has been a gift. Share the gift with others. How do you share the gift of your journey in your life's, purpose, path, difficulties, vulnerabilities with other people? Story. You sit them down and you say, let me tell you this story. And you tell them about your elementary school or your childhood or your grandpa or your grandma or that teacher or that person who mentored you, or that time when you were down in the dumps, but you rose out anyway. That is sharing the gift. The gift is your life. And the way you share the gift of your life is only two ways: story, right? Communication, the ultimate human skill, right? Communication, or service, doing something for others. The only way to take a gift is to either speak that gift or give the gift. And so the way I tell people, like, sit down and if it starts with journaling, write, what are some of the stories of the gifts of my life? What are some of the blessings? And don't write like, I'm thankful for the kids. No, write scenes. I taught this to our beach gang, right? It's the power of visualization, of seeing scenes in your life. Instead of going, writing a list of things you're thankful for, journal, write out the story of the scene that you saw. So instead of saying, I'm thankful for my dad, I would think, okay, I'm thankful for my dad. What's a moment, a scene I can see in my memory of me and my dad that I'm thankful for that scene? That scene was given to me. Like the creator directed that scene for me. And I was like, oh, that time when I got to take my dad to the Vietnam Memorial Wall that was traveling. So a lot of people don't know this, but the Vietnam Memorial Wall travels around the country, goes to all the different states. And so there's the one in Washington, D.C., but they have a mobile one that's real life size, and they set up in cities. My dad did 3 tours in Vietnam. And so when I was in college one year, I came back in the summer, and he asked me to go to this thing, and I didn't know it was a big deal. I said, okay, whatever. So we go there, we drive, and as soon as we're there, you feel the weight, because if those who haven't seen it, on the Vietnam Memorial Wall, it's all the persons who passed away, their name, carved in limestone or in granite, depending on which one is traveling. And so I'm there. My dad ended up bringing one of his medals, and he put it there, and he was just walking back and forth. I could feel wow, this is a big moment. We go back to the car, and Dad's driving. I go around the car to get in, and I hear the keys jangling, and I kind of look up, and he looks funny. So I'm like, are you all right? And I walk back over, and his hands are shaking, and he can't get the key in the door. He's so emotional. And he kind of just falls in my arms, and I hug my dad, and I'm kind of holding him up. And this is my dad, my hero, my strength, he's a Marine. And first time as a man, I'm supporting my dad. Yeah. And I'm so thankful I got to experience that, because I drove home, and then we had a short conversation about it. And I went downstairs, I cried about it, and I was like, oh my gosh, my dad. And I'm so happy that I got to experience my dad when I was growing up, when I was a man. It makes me so thankful. And so I can write on a piece of paper one day, I'm grateful for my dad, or I can journal about that scene. And when you journal about the scenes in your life, you realize the scenes are stories. Like I just got to tell a story about my dad. My dad was a huge gift to me. He taught me, be yourself, do your best, be honest, treat people with respect, take care of your family, follow your dreams, be a good citizen. That's what my dad taught me. So I'm always telling stories of my dad to carry on his legacy. And your kids are going to tell stories about mom to carry on your legacy. And so if we can realize our stories are gifts, that was a gift that I got with my dad. And if I can journal about that or share that, then I carry on legacies. That's the human narrative. We carry on each other's legacies by telling stories. So you honor life by sharing your story. You honor life by recognizing those stories like that mean something to you. So I'm just encouraging everyone, tap into the stories of your life. If you never sat down with a high performance journal or another journal to write down the beautiful scenes of your life and feel them, and then tell a friend about them. Hey, let me tell you about my dad, and just say it. That's how people get to know you. And that's the beauty of life.
Whew. This is coffee, but it almost needs to be wine right now. Like, that was so powerful. This was, on Growth Day on the morning show, like our hope and prayer is to inspire all types of growth, right? And some days we're talking about business growth and tactical growth. But the power of everything you just said and the power of this idea of every one of us growing and learning how to share our own stories, I believe that impacts every part of your life, including the business stuff, including everything, right? When we get better in touch with that authentic through line of who we are and start to share it, so powerful. And I want to share one thing that was life-changing for me on this journey to confidence. And, I went through a season of what I thought was setbacks. I was anchoring the news. I was working as a journalist. I thought it was my dream job. I always wanted to interview other people, right? And share their stories, like since the time I was a little girl and I was in my dream job. And I started getting rosacea, which is a hereditary skin condition. It was pretty bad. I went through this big season that really affected my confidence, right? And I would get these big red bumps and it would be bright red. And sometimes, even now to this day, Brendan, when let's say I drink wine one night, or it's just a stressful time, or it's just a season, or the weather, and all of a sudden.
So the last 6 months, basically, is what we're talking about.
Basically. I'll just have these, I get really bright red. It kind of can feel like sandpaper. And I went through this season of thinking all the thoughts our inner critic thinks, right? And it really affected my confidence for a long time. And I had this realization in my life, and it really happened the first time I went on live national television and actually took my makeup off. And it's this, right? It's this idea that there are things that we are embarrassed of. And I think this is universal. There are things we're embarrassed of that we let affect our confidence. There's past mistakes we've made. There is, things that we tell ourselves are wrong with ourselves or aren't enough about ourselves. And yet when we embrace them, when we just make the decision to say, oh, this isn't what's wrong with me, this is what's right with me. And I know that's hard, but when we make that decision, when we do something afraid, it literally shrinks that fear. It shrinks the thing that we thought was really a big deal, right? When we share our story for the first time or do the thing that's holding us back. And I'm just I literally, because I have makeup on because I have a press day for book all day today for the book launch. But I just want to show you something, okay? Because I want to challenge everyone inside the Growth Day morning show. This weekend, we're going into a weekend. I just want you to think about one thing that's holding you back in your own confidence and just do it. And just take that risk and just step forward. Okay. And I just want to show you because something happened to me when I did it. So I have a makeup remover wipe, Brendan. This is, you probably never seen one of these. This is a little towelette. I just want to show you something, right? Because so I just have makeup on for press later today. But when I take this off, and I'll never forget the moment I did this for the first time, because I used to think I should be embarrassed or something's wrong with me or I'm not beautiful, all those things. And when I started taking my makeup off, right? Because when I created a company, it wasn't about, oh, these are products that work for, all kinds of skin. It was like, oh, here's what beauty is. It's every single one of us. And you are just as beautiful on the days you want to wear makeup as the days you don't. And something happened to me the moment I did it afraid, the moment I went on national television and just took my makeup off. And Brendan, what started happening literally is I was like, oh, like, it's not about me. B, we're all beautiful. I believe that authentically.
Yes.
I'm no
Yes.
longer afraid of rosacea. I'm no longer embarrassed by it. I no longer think it's ugly. And when I go into grocery stores
So
now
beautiful.
and I have no makeup on, right? I'll have people I don't know, like, oh, are you sunburned, or are you not feeling well? And I'm like, no, I have rosacea. It's a skin condition. And I just try to normalize it. And when I see other people, other women, with red cheeks or hyperpigmentation or all this stuff, and I see them just bravely bearing it, I smile like it's like a thing, right? And
It's a
I think
beautiful thing. It's
a beautiful
inspiring.
thing. And I think together we're changing the world. And I pulled up one quote I want to share with everyone this morning on the Growth Day Morning Show, because again, we're all in this together. Every one of us has something that we feel like makes us feel not enough, or we're embarrassed about, or it's hurting our confidence. And there's a famous quote, so I wrote it down right here, and it's attributed to Albert Einstein, but also a lot of other people, so I don't know the original source, but it says, everybody's a genius, but if you judge a fish by its ability to climb a tree, it'll live its whole life believing it's stupid. And I think when we judge ourselves based on something we've defined as wrong with us, we risk spending our whole lives thinking we're wrong.
Yes.
Like when there's something that is holding us back in our own confidence, and we're the ones telling ourselves we're not enough, like we spend our whole lives then thinking we're not enough. And I don't want to swear on the Growth Day Morning Show, but I will say this stuff has got to change.
Yes.
This stuff has got to change. And I want to read this quote one more time, because a lot of us are like this fish judging itself to climb a tree, okay? Everyone is a genius, but if you judge a fish by its ability to climb a tree, it'll live its whole life believing that it's stupid. This stuff with what we believe about ourselves and the meaning we attach to the things we think are wrong with us is got to change. And when we take that, when we take that step and do it afraid, right? One person who just wrote down here, I think it was Janie wrote, I'm scared to have conversations with other people. You just start. You just do it. You just keep doing it. And once you start doing those things, you build a lot more confidence in it, and the fear shrinks. Like I was scared to death, right? Because I have it on both cheeks. I was scared to death to do this the first time and the second time and the third time. But now, but all of a sudden that fear, that self-doubt, that insecurity shrinks, and it becomes replaced by empowerment. And oh yeah, I can do these things. And oh yeah.
And self-trust and congruence and readiness. Because I love what you're saying, because confidence, y'all, if you wait to have confidence to do something, you'll never do it.
Yeah.
Confidence is gained in momentum. So if you want more confidence, you get in momentum. You enter the fear, you enter the unknown, you enter the uncertainty, you try it. And as you survive it and do it, you realize, oh, I can handle this, which builds competence inside.
Yeah.
And because you tried it, you have self-trust. You go, oh, I went for it even though I didn't know how it's going to go. And the self-trust and the self-respect and the self-worth grows, not because you achieved something, but because you tried. Because you tried, you moved forward. The achievement was the trying, and you did it. And you also realize that most people aren't, like when you did this, I was watching the comments really closely, Jamie. First, would you all give Jamie a round of applause, because this is so inspiring? Give her some hearts, give her some claps, because this is like,
together.
But it's beautiful. It's beautiful what you just did. It's beautiful. And I'm watching the comments, and people cheer that on. People cheer real life on. We're always scared that, oh, real life, people won't like that. So let me use the filter. People love real. People love this show. They're here every day because they're gaining with us as we're gaining momentum in Growth Day. They're gaining momentum with us. We're feeling good. We're moving in a direction. We're building new things. We're trying new things. But if you were me and Jamie in the first 4 days of this, it was a hot mess. Yeah. We didn't know how. She's like, we're sitting there with the blue tape, trying to figure out how to plug this in, how to make that go. The audio was all messed up. I didn't know I had to wear the earphony things because this mic was doing something weird on the. We had no idea what we were doing, but we're gaining confidence and steam as we go along, and we get to do that with you. Please heed what she's sharing. I shared about that yesterday too. I want to just emphasize her fish out of water. That was yesterday's message too, was remember that be kind of like water. The water, as it flows, can go around any obstacle, no matter how big the obstacle is. And it doesn't try to change its nature.
Yeah.
It follows its path. It follows its path. And by following your real path, not trying to hide who you are, following your real path, I really believe people will cheer you on and support you way more than the haters. Haters are, I'll just give you the rule. Haters are 10%. If you can accept that whatever you do in your life, 10% of people are maybe going to give you some negative feedback, criticism, judgment, unfair judgment, or hate.
Yeah.
What would you do in your life? Because that's only 10%. 90% of people got your back. You could swarm the haters. You know what I'm saying?
That's right. I love that so much. It's so true. And, you know, it's beautiful too. The more you embrace the parts of yourself that you think are not enough, and literally you can switch your mindset around them and just embrace them as beautiful. Or, you know, in my case, a lot of times I think to myself, oh, this is helping someone else. It's helping normalize skin issues, or it's helping, right? It's like when we reveal the real of who we are, it shrinks our fear, it boosts our confidence, but it also becomes about something bigger than ourselves too. And, you know, one great example of this, anyone out there who knows Sarah Blakely, founder of Spanx, right? Sarah Blakely, founder of Spanx. She is such a I love when people just show it all, right? She's married to Jesse Itzler, who I believe he's vegan. Sarah's obsessed with Cheez-Its and French fries. And she's not even trying to act like she's not. And it's a really cool thing because I'm just thinking of this because she's turning 50 and she just went on a trip by herself. So she has 4 kids and she's like, for a gift, I just want to go away by herself. She went away by herself and she's posting all week long from her hotel room what she's doing all alone. And I'm just a little biased because she brought my book, Believe It, with her to read the second time. She already read the book. She sent me a whole testimonial about it, saying every woman in the world needs this, every entrepreneur. And then she's now reading it a second time on her 50th birthday week. And she's posting it sitting next to, like, she has a table of wine, French fries, and salad to keep it all balanced.
This sounds great.
Right?
What a good vacation. Good job.
Like, that's the best. And that's a room with some of my favorite things. Sarah Blakely, the Believe It book, wine, French fries, and it was Caesar salads that she had. I'm just like, oh my gosh, brilliant.
Well, she got the salad in. I mean, those points. Those points.
Yeah, she's like her husband will approve of one of those things.
If I eat something terrible like pizza or something, I'll like go to the pantry and eat like all these chlorella and spirulina tablets that we have. Like, I'm like, well, so I'll eat like a pile of them, just like a bunch of greens I'll swallow after. I'm like, I'm good.
You're good. You're good. Yeah.
That's great. Everyone loves you. If you don't know what Jamie's talking about, she's talking about her book, Believe It. It is so good. Please pick it up. It is going to be a huge bestseller because A, everyone loves Jamie and believes in her. B, the value in this book of vulnerability, of sharing this difficult journey of how do you believe in yourself, start something that's your own, build it up, endure the constant no's and haters and criticism and frankly demeaning people that can be in the world, to follow your passion and build something that's real. And you have to do that. You have to believe it. So she did it as a play on words because her company was called It Cosmetics. Yeah. And so believe it as in It Cosmetics, but believe it, also believe it. Believe is possible for you. This show is about how can you start your day a little bit more intentional, a little more grounded and confident and joyous. How can we start the day in some way? We spark some aliveness in you to go win the day, spark some aliveness to be a good mom or a good parent or a good caregiver or a good leader, or contributor, artist, whatever your jam is today. How can you bring some joy to that and really experience it? Like, life has to be a quintessential question of how can I enjoy this day?
Yeah.
Even when the day is full of, I got to make lunch for 50 people, or I gotta go, do all the laundry of 70 people, or I have to figure out how to build this business or start this thing. You must find your way of bringing happiness to it. And Jamie and I have been talking about confidence all week, and we've talked about different frameworks for how do you find confidence, from letting go of labels that other people called you to simple acts of standing in front of your goals and your dreams every day and looking at them so that the motivation, the ambition hits your heart again visually. All of these things we talk about. Today I had an idea I thought I'd share about confidence, Jamie.
Yeah.
And I know you have some things you'd like to share as well. And you want to go first?
No, go for it. Go for it.
Every
We're both
time
coming in hot today.
I get happy. I know some of you, you're new to our community. So if you have never joined us officially on Growth Day, go to growthday.com. That's where we do all our live in-depth training with lots of personal development trainers going live for you guys all year long for less than $1 a day. It's super cool. But Jamie sent me these mugs, which still makes me happy every time I take a drink out of it. Cheers, Jamie. Good morning.
Cheers. Good morning. Cheers. Cheers. I'm going to guess, are you drinking green tea?
It's water today.
Water today. Okay. You don't need to guess
water.
with mine. It's complete coffee.
I already got my morning workout in, so I'm energized. I'm fired up. I get so excited to talk with you all and see you all in the comments. I see people all around the world who join us every single morning just to give you a big old virtual hug and start your day off strong. Here's an idea on confidence, speaking of drinking my water here, that might serve you all. And that's this. Please realize that a lot of confidence, as we've talked about it, has been very, let me redefine my identity. Let me set intentions for who I am each day. Let me look at my goals and let me believe in my ability to figure things out, because that's what confidence is, my belief in my ability to figure things out. But I also want to tell a different kind of confidence. We're halfway through the week. And this different kind of confidence is the confidence of trust in being. Think about this. When water is flowing down a hill, it's not trying to be confident and strong. It's not trying to surge down the hill. It's not trying to command all the rocks to be exactly where the rocks have to be because it's a perfectionist water. It's flowing naturally with what it is. The bumblebee isn't going, we're going to command this field. Let me bring the legions and we're going to take this field. The bumblebee is doing what the bumblebee does, what the bumblebee is. And sometimes people lack confidence, not because they don't have goals, not because they're not high achievers. In fact, most of the high performers that I've consulted and coached with and worked with in the world, what they were trying to get back to was their authentic presence. They were the good commander on the field or the builder of the industry or the titan. And then at some point they said, I got to figure out me again and flow with that. And finding your natural essence, your nature, the truth of who you are, there's confidence there. Like I show up in a lot of different situations where it's very anxiety producing, right? Imagine walking out onto a 60-foot stage that's 40 feet deep and 20,000 people are in the arena. And you have to talk to them, entertain them, and get a standing ovation in 90 minutes. This used to be my life, people. And it's very anxiety producing. And if I think I'm going to go do these things to them, or if I think, oh, I hope I get this right, I'm going to go out there, I'm going to dance with them, and I'm a terrible dancer. I'm going to tell my jokes, which 9 out of 10 times I think is funny, and no one laughs at the joke. They just laugh at the fact that I'm so enjoying myself. So they're like, I like him because he's enjoying himself. I want you on this Wednesday, halfway through the week, to enjoy yourself, to flow with your nature today, even if you have to do something you don't want to do. You don't want to do the emails. You don't want to do the call. You don't want to do the work. You don't want to do the things with kids. Flow with it. Don't try to control everything. Flow with yourself. Be spontaneous. Real confidence isn't actually structured. It's spontaneous. It's flowing. It's gorgeously open energy that's in the moment of presence, that's in the moment of freedom. And that's what I want you to find. To take that idea that confidence is the Superman cape, instead going, no, confidence is the dance. It's the flow. It's the energy. You're just showing up being beautifully you. Please do that today and you'll have a better week.
Amen to that on a Wednesday. And I
love on a Wednesday. Can I get an amen on a Wednesday?
Amen on a Wednesday. I'm throwing out what I was going to talk about because this is so good and I'm fired up right now. But, okay, I want to distinguish something you just said too that I think is huge for people. Sometimes when we're in a growth community and we're invested into personal growth and we want to change our habits, improve our habits, we want to do all those things. Sometimes we can confuse that with I need to change who I am or my essence. And they're two different things, right? And I think this is so beautiful what you said, because I think it's so freeing for people as well. Because when we feel like we are just that authentic water and we're flowing through and we're showing up in our own real true essence of who we are, for better or worse. Not everyone's going to love it. Not everything's perfect, but when you do that and you actually like embrace who you are fully, it's so freeing. You feel in that state of flow and you're able to connect with other people authentically. You're able to feel the day more. And then also you approach, I think, personal growth from a place of freedom also, where from a place of confidence, right? Because you're not saying, oh, I need to change who I am to become confident. You're like, oh no, let me show up in all of my essence. Let me flow through life and dance in full commitment, as you would say, right? And by the way, Brendan, the other day when you were talking about your dancing, how bad your dancing is on stage, I'm like, no. The way that dancing is good or bad based on if you fully commit. And I believe anyone who fully commits when they dance, fully commits, great dancer, right? And so many people reposted that because how true is this, right? The example you just gave, that when you show up on your stage and you're just out there and you're all of that, it's laughing at your own jokes. But when you're fully flowing through like the water in your own jokes and you really think they're funny, people can feel it and they celebrate that, right? And I think sometimes
you're taking joy in your being, you're taking joy in your own mind, you're taking joy in the moment. And I really want everybody to feel that is like, it's halfway through the week. Are you feeling the day at all? Are you bringing intention and energy into it? Are you letting the world's events transpire and in such a way that it doesn't throw you off from your flow?
Yeah.
I mean, like, isn't it true drama is always going to be there, Jamie? Like drama, something's going to break. I mean, you had 1,000 employees at It Cosmetics or whatever it was. It was like, right? I mean, at some point, people were screwing stuff up and bad things were happening. Customers were upset about this or that. That's just life, but you still got to show up and do the work, you know?
Yeah. Part of any business, part of any family, part of any group absolutely. It's always there and you have to show up. And I think, with the theme of Confidence Week and talking about what you're saying too, about just showing up in your own essence, one thing I want to share that just popped in my mind that was so powerful for me to see, and maybe this is going to speak to someone out there right now who feels like they're getting feedback from other people on things they're not doing good enough or well enough, or things they need to change, or maybe your own inner critic is telling you all the stuff you need to change about yourself. And I just want to make this point again, that there's a difference between changing who you are versus keeping who you are and growing authentically into more of who you are, growing into all of who you are. Right?
Yes.
Very different than changing who you are. So I just want to call this out because so many people, we need to stop thinking we need to change who we are and that there's something wrong with us. And instead, like, embrace our essence, embrace who we are authentically, and go on this journey of growing into all of who we are. And confidence is a big part of that. And a friend of mine, Glennon Doyle, who just wrote a book called Untamed, he's out there everywhere. She said something recently and it just blew my mind. And I'm going to share it with everyone right now who might need to hear this today, because we're talking about confidence, right? So anyone who's written a book before, anyone who is in the process now, anyone who might want to write a book in the future, when you write your full manuscript and you turn it in, if you go through a publisher, you have different editors and they look at all your stuff and they start changing a lot of stuff. I mean, every page.
Just started the work. Y'all should that. When you write a book, when you turn it in, you literally just began the project. That was like the first step. That's the hardest step. That's the first step. So be ready for Jamie finished her first book, Believe It. It comes out next month. I'm so excited.
This month.
It's like 3 weeks.
Yeah.
It's called Believe It. Pre-order on Amazon. Go support her. Go to believeit.com. She worked so hard on this book, y'all. And I know you're telling a story. I'm sorry to interrupt. I'm just so excited because you really got it. Like, she turned it in. I got a first version of Believe It. And I went through it and gave some feedback and knew it was like, this is the first round of feedback and this is going to be a lot. Like, your editors and remember, you were so precious about it. You were like, oh, I hope they don't want to change it. And I was like, oh, they might, you go through the process. And I just trusted and knew that you would, going through the process several more times with other people, it always makes something better. It really does, if you trust and you follow your voice. But anyway, I'm sorry.
Yeah. Well, no, exactly. Yeah. So just to share that, I said no to a book deal for 10 years because I was like all in building this company and I didn't want someone else to write my book. I wanted it to be fully authentic. So I waited. And then when I knew it was the right time, I wrote 80,000 words, every single word. And I was crying and laughing and so fired up for everyone that was going to, to share these lessons with, and binge eating Lucky Charms some days, all the things. Anyways, when I finally turned in the manuscript, Brendan, you and Oprah were two of the first two people that read the draft, and it was the first time I got feedback. And this is what I want to share with everyone and share about Glennon Doyle's story. And you said the same thing, and so did Oprah too. There's like, oh, great editors are gonna even challenge you to go deeper on the stories, deeper on the lessons, all the stuff. And so, yeah, to your point, writing the book, that's the starting point. Then I spent the last 2 years, almost 2 years, editing every single word myself, going deeper, challenge. But the point I want to make is this: not about my book, but about our life and about every person listening right now. We all go through a process in life. I think whether you're writing a book or you're just living your day-to-day life, right? No matter what you're waking up and dealing with today, and that's when other people tell us to change things, right? Or tell us something's not right, it needs to be stronger, it needs to be better. And I think that it's so important to check in with our gut and go, does that feel right to me? And then if it feels right, you're like, oh, that feedback is a gift. I'm going with it. What a gift that this person said, hey, I think you should do this, challenge yourself to go deeper on this lesson. Or can you share more? I know it's personal, but can you share more? Whatever that feedback is, right? And then there's other times where you get people wanting to edit you, to use the book terms, and you're like, no, right? And I think this is really important. And in the book world, I'm going to share a word I just learned as an author in the past 2 years, which is STET, S-T-E-T, right? So when you get your book back, your manuscript back, the first round from all the editors, you'll see everything, a million changes on every page. And if you want to accept the change, if they say, hey, go deeper on this lesson or reveal this, or what if you talk more about this ex-boyfriend, whatever it is, right? You can accept the change and go, yeah, I'm going to go deeper there. I'm going to change this or edit that. Or you, as an author of your own life, your own book, you can write STET, S-T-E-T. And what that means is, no, I'm not going to change that. I'm not going to accept that edit. I appreciate your feedback, but it's not right for me authentically. So I was watching, my friend Glennon Doyle was talking about the words of the year. A lot of people have their own word for the year, right? Every year. And she was talking about, a lot of people might choose, confidence, like we're talking about, which is huge. And a word that we need to focus on for the year. It's a big thing out there. Her word is STET of the whole year. And she explained it in a way that was, I thought, so profound. And I just want to share it because someone else out there might need that word right now. She's
kind of like,
listen,
I'm not going to change. Kind of like,
she's like, I'm going to grow.
But I'm not needing to change.
Well, it's more just like being mindful of when people tell you you need to do this differently, or you're not enough, or you're not the right fit, or you need to change this about you or that about you. It is so important that we go, oh, is this feedback a gift? Is it aligned with my soul? Is it valuable so that I can continue becoming all of who I am? Or do I just need to say STET? Like, thank you for your opinion, But that feedback isn't right for me. That criticism or that telling me something about me needs to change or something about me is not enough. And I think having the confidence in our own lives of saying, I'm going to trust myself and my gut over if this word someone said to me is right for me, or this feedback someone gave me, or this criticism someone gave me, having the confidence to say, does this feel right in my gut? And if it does, great, trust it. And if it doesn't, don't. And have the confidence to just appreciate that from a distance and appreciate that person's intentions, because a lot of times they're good, but say that word "stet" in your own life. And I just thought that was really powerful, because a lot of times we're so busy throughout the day that we don't take the time to go, oh, let me curate the words that come in, that penetrate and take root, that other people share or that I'm hearing throughout my day. And I think part of confidence is learning to do that.
I think it is. It's about how to receive other people's direction or input or judgments, and also your own judgments, because sometimes it's your own voice saying things and you were like, whoa, is that true? I put everything through a filter, obviously, because I'm the Mr. Framework guy. So I'm like, I call it the 3 E's. And so I listen for the 3 E's, and the E's just each stand for a word. And the first one is, does this feedback or this mental chatter, if I follow it, does it expand? Does it expand my growth? Does it expand who I am? Does it expand my strengths, my energy? Is it something that's going to make me, in other words, grow, but like is expansive from the source, right? Meaning first, does that tie in with the source, the truth of who I am or what I desire or where I'm going? And does it expand it? Or does it just like, pop in a hole in it? It's like, okay, that's not useful. The question is, does it expand? The second one is, does it enrich? Does this feedback, if I follow it, or this mental, if I do what my, ideas are thinking, does it enrich my life? Does it enrich my life in terms of my joy? Does it enrich my life in terms of the beauty around me? Does it enrich how I, the sense of satisfaction or fulfillment or meaning that I get from life? Or is it just more noise? And then the last one is, does it empower me in such a way it makes me more accountable or skilled? Like if I do what they're saying, will that make me better? Will that make me a higher performer? Will that take me to the next level? Does that empower my belief in myself? Or does that empower me to do more the next day or to be more? And so I'm always thinking, does this expand me? Does this enrich my life? Does this empower my capabilities? If not, it's noise and probably a direction I don't need to go on, or it's a label someone's applying. It's not, in other words, it's not actually directive. It's not additive. It's not progressive. And you have to learn those, because some people offer what I call dead-end advice. Label, judgment, stop. And I'm like, oh, that's dead-end advice. That's dead-end advice is thank you, but there's a dead end. Other people offer advice or thoughts or judgments or encouragement to you that now expands, enriches, or empowers. You want to listen to those people. You want to listen to those thoughts. You want to set up your environment from what's going in your ear in your workout, when you're listening to positive podcasts or our morning show. You want to start programming your mind for things that are expanding, enriching, and empowering. And the more you do that, the more that ends up kind of, I would say, kind of like knocking down the noise of other things, because our brains are always telling us stories. And sometimes you have to feed like other sounds into your brain, encouraging people, enriching advice, empowering ideas, that overcomes the lower levels of noise and those thoughts that aren't serving or positive or engaging. And I think that's just a big differentiator in life. Is this expanding, enriching, and empowering me, or is it just noise?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And, for me, part of expanding and enriching and empowering too is just, how does this feel in my gut? Does this feel right? You know what I mean? I think of all the years of getting feedback from, when I was trying to build a company and kept getting rejection after rejection after rejection. And every time, usually these rejections from the retail stores or from, whoever it was, experts it would come with feedback. And I always had to check in and just trust my gut. And sometimes, like at the end of the day, sometimes it's all we have is that inner knowing of, is this feedback right for me? Is that word somebody said right for me? Do I let it take root? And there were so many times where I would get feedback like, oh, you need to change all of your packaging and make it a lot more expensive feeling, or whatever the feedback was. And I always would check in and be like, no, like it doesn't feel right. Or, oh, wow, that was a good catch. They just told me my font is too small to read. And oh, that was huge. Thank you. You know what I mean?
If you make font too small, Jamie's coming right at you. She's gonna give you some feedback. You're like, no, She will catch that detail, people. How did you develop confidence? And when it goes away, how do you get it back?
Yeah. Okay. So 2 things. And I love, Brendan, that we're going into Confidence Week, right? And that we're going from Vision Week into Confidence Week, because I think the two are so closely linked also. Because again, a lot of, for me, how I get back to that place of confidence is I remember the vision, right? And one thing that I want to say is, like, when you're talking about, you just have faith in your ability to figure things out, and your car might not be the prettiest one that you build in that moment, but you also kind of know where you're going. And I just think the two are really tied. And one quick story that I just want to share in case it's of value to anyone as we go into Confidence Week is, in building It Cosmetics, right? There were so many things that and our whole mission as a company wasn't to sell products that work, even though that's what we did. It was to instill confidence, and to shift the entire definition of beauty that we were all raised with, right? And it was more important to me to help women and our customers feel confident all the time, not just when they feel like wearing a makeup product, but more importantly, when they don't, on the days they don't. You know what I mean? And so this was confidence was a huge focus for what we did and what we built. And I just want to share one thing, because as we come out of Vision Week and you shared your battle board and everything else, I think us knowing where we're going, I really believe is so important for confidence. And at It Cosmetics, I did so many things wrong along this journey of going from my living room and not being able to afford to hire anyone for 3 years to building over 1,000 employees and a $1 billion company. But one of the things I did right was we kept the vision in the heart and soul, literally in front of everyone physically. And that helps you keep confidence in your product development decisions and your hiring decisions, in how you show up on the day. And so, to get really granular, when you walked into our offices, and I think this is important because, listen, most of us are working in our living room right now, but we can set up our living room this way, or we can set up the closet we're recording our podcast out of this way, or we can set, maybe it's as simple as when you open your drawer, you have a reminder right there, right? We can do this in your closet. We can do this in all different ways, but every single employee in the whole company got a little sign that went on their desk that had all of our whole mission in photos of why we're doing what we're doing. And the customer was at the heart and soul of it.
Wow.
Right in the center, right? And this became everyone's screensaver. This was printed out, put on every person's desk. When you walked into the offices, right in the lobby, our whole mission statement was on the front wall. And then we had these kind of pillars of belief that we believed in as a brand, and the impact we wanted to make in the world and on every person that came in touch with our products. And those little beliefs, we painted them all over every place of the office. So if you walked into a conference room, you saw a belief. If you went into the bathroom, you saw a belief. If you they were everywhere. And we ended up referencing this back a lot, and I mean a lot, over the years. And I want to share this with everyone, because I think in this journey of your own vision, but also in being confident, right? A lot of people, that's the one thing that for them will change everything if they just figure out how to be confident in themselves. And if you know who you are, where you're going, the words you want to say to yourself about yourself, even if you don't believe them yet, when you figure out all of those things, I think having them clear in places in front of you. So on every employee's desk, we had, in this frame, these 4 photos of all the things we stood for. And in the center was our customer at the heart and soul of it. And,
Wow.
every time something happened, Brendan, for example, there'd be a big trend in the marketplace and everyone's making money off selling something. And the retailers are asking our company to create it. And so I have the team coming to me who wants to hit their sales goals. And they're like, okay, listen, here's what and we would go back to that photo. I'd be like, okay, does this serve her? Like, look at me and I would say this, like, tell me, is her life better? If literally, is it better? Does it bring her joy? Does it solve her problem? Does this fit our vision of where we're going? And usually the answer is no. And then boom, we don't launch that product, or we don't go into that retail partner, or
you had clear intentions. They were stated. People knew it. That's where we talk about even around, I love it how you said it, around your house. Last week, I kept showing you guys my battle board, or talking about how I plan and schedule things. It's like, if those words and that purpose isn't there, it's so easy to get distracted over here or over there. Like, you have to, even with my clients, I always have them choose like 3 words that describe the best of who they are. And then I have them put those 3 words as a reminder in their phone. And so these reminders pop up every day that say these words that describe the best of who they are. So maybe your word, this week or this month is confident, or maybe it's bold, or it's courageous, or it's thoughtful, or kind, or loving, or appreciative, whatever it is. But when those words pop up on your phone every day, you go, it starts ingraining that self-talk in your mind. It reminds you, oh, right. Reorient to that. Because those words are the labels you're giving yourself. And Jamie, you better talk about labels, because you promised them 3 days in a row. And if you don't do it, I'm going to get DMs all day long. What do you do with labels? How do they impact confidence? Because I'm telling you what, I don't want to be a labeled bad guy if I don't facilitate that.
Yeah. Okay. I think that, we're not in life. We're not who other people say we are, right? We're who we believe we are. And I think that, as we come out of Vision Week and go into Confidence Week, I think that we're going to spend a lot of time. I just have a feeling we're going to spend a lot of time this week, Brendan, just talking about this idea of how do we become confident? How do we become confident in our own dreams, confident in ourselves? How do we overcome and break through the barriers of self-doubt? And, I want to bring this up, and this might be a multi-day thing, but so many of us have been told, right? So my amazing husband, Paulo, I hope he's not going to kill me for sharing this, but we were talking about the topic of labels, and he was raised by like loving parents, but he would always be told, you're the athletic one, your brother's the smart one, right? And then as they grow up, we hear these things, right? And sometimes we let these labels take root, and sometimes it's a family member that says it, or a friend that says it, or somebody at school that says it, or a colleague, or it's ourselves saying it to ourselves. But those words, those labels that we give ourselves can be used, to Brendan's point, to really empower us and give us vision and confidence and help us to believe. But there's also labels that for a lot of us are old labels that we're still letting take root and stick to us. And like, oh, it's a new day. It's time to remove some of those old labels. And I don't know who out there needs to hear this right now on the Growth Day Morning Show, but we've all had labels put on us, and some of them don't serve us. And so, I was telling Brendan, I had a paragraph in my book about this that I wanted to share. So I'm just going to share it with you really fast, because this is big. And my prayer for everyone, I think that these labels can hold us back. And when we realize they're not permanent, they can really set us free on our own journey to confidence. So I'm going to read this little excerpt from Believe It. Brendan, it's out in 3 weeks.
Go!
Freaking out. Okay, so here we go. In life, we aren't who people say we are. We're who we believe we are. We don't have to accept the labels that other people put on us. We're also not our family, for better or for worse, or our past mistakes. We're not a nickname someone gave us or a regrettable incident we miscalculated. It's easy to carry around old labels and mistake them for permanent ones, but they come with a light Post-it adhesive. So don't let yourself believe they're attached with super glue. They are removable. And sure, sometimes there's truth in some of those hurtful labels. Like for me, I'll share the story later in this week about procrastination, a season I went through. But we make new choices as we grow. We can change our minds and change our decisions about who we are and how we show up for ourselves, for others, and for the world at any moment going forward. Where we come from doesn't have to determine who we are or where we're going in the future.
Hey!
So, hearing that, because
so good. That's from Jamie's book, Believe It, coming out this month. Y'all, you can pre-order on Amazon right now, or just go to believeit.com because she has some crazy bonuses for you. Give her a round of applause because that's such good writing, by the way.
It's so
a regrettable, I think you said a regrettable event or that you miscalculated.
Yeah, we're not our regrettable incidents that we might have miscalculated, right?
So good. Or didn't anticipate, you know? It's yes, both of those, because a lot of people let that label from childhood or those high school kids or their first failures that were either they caused or were regrettably like random. And I love it. They're not super glue, she said. They're like, they're like not even good Post-it notes. They're like the cheap cheap Post-it notes. They won't even stick to the wall. That's what labels really need to be for you. Accept the labels that you build into the foundation of your character. Yeah. Because you chose them. Like, because that's a different thing. It's like a name calling is a very different thing than character building. Yeah. Choosing who am I built upon? What am I built upon? Who am I really? And that's why I say choosing your words about yourself and reminding yourself about those, even on days when you suck and you're terrible and you don't do good. And you say that to yourself, like, I suck, I'm terrible, I'm awful, I'm worthless. We say these things to ourselves, and that self-talk builds into a pattern of thinking, a mindset, which becomes which mindset and pattern of self-talk over and over and over again, that becomes a psychological pattern, which becomes an identity. And that identity becomes something you operate out of. And so you reverse engineer that to structure yourself into a strong, capable, caring, loving, proud, ready, good learner who wants to go add value in the world. In other words, you make that, you tell that to yourself.
Yeah. And, I think too, so powerful. This is going to be such an amazing week on Growth Day Morning Show for everybody, because I just think if you are out there listening with me and Brendan right now, and you feel like you're the only one that you're like, even you're judging yourself, maybe it's not someone else that said something hurtful. Maybe it's you feel like because of a past mistake and it's
always you, just so you know, it's always you. They will listen, it's like, we always think, oh, they said this. No. You agreed with it. You accepted it. You believed that negativity. Because can you raise your hand? The haters will always be there. Does everyone agree? They will 100%. There will always be someone to doubt you, minimize you, scream at you, abuse you if you let it. Like that exists in the world. Let's not pretend that mean, negative people can't really hurt us if we continually believe what they say, if we choose to believe what they say, because we can choose to believe in something different, a different narrative about ourselves, a different story about ourselves. And so I think it's really important, because what happens in confidence is often, well, they. And at some point, I'm like, yes, they will always be there. Who are you now? What do you want to architect into your character? What do you want to have repeating in your mind?
I truly believe that the most important words in the world are the ones that we say to ourselves. And your ability to navigate rejection, your ability to, as you say, get quiet and still seems to be, both here in the show and in the book, like absolutely foundational. Give us a little bit of how long did you work out that muscle? Was it 3 years? Was it a lifetime? Was it just in a professional capacity, or do you make use of this in your personal life? Because as you said, not only is this story bigger than you, but it's bigger than business. It's about humanity. And, whether you're successful in business or you feel fulfilled in life, there's not that much gap between those two things. If you have this skill set, I believe you can create or cultivate fulfillment in all these areas of your life. So was it professional, personal? And how long did you feel like it took before you had the resilience, or did it just happen at the right time and you just continued to hone the muscle? Give me a little bit more color there.
Yeah, I feel like it is a work in progress still. I feel like it's a lifelong journey. There are so many areas in my life where I went from just completely being overrun by self-doubt and learning how to turn down the volume on my own self-doubt. And I literally, Chase, would imagine, I talk about in the book a lot, this idea of like this imaginary microphone or this imaginary volume dial, right? And, there were times where, I got a strong rejection that hurt so bad from someone. And it's hard when somebody rejects us or says something about us, or we keep telling ourselves, things that are maybe reflections of past mistakes or past miscalculations. And we start to label ourselves as things and repeat them over and over. And, I'm still a work in progress at this, but I think, one of the tools I talk about in this book is how do you learn to really just turn down the volume on those things and interrupt them when you start to tell yourself those things, right? Or repeat words that someone else said to you, or a label someone else put on you, or a past mistake you've made. It's like, how do you turn down the volume on those things and turn up the volume on things that serve you and that remind you of who you are and your strengths and your capabilities and your, all those things. It's a work in progress for me. So I still deal with it every single day. And, there's a lot of areas professionally and personally that I've, learned to believe in myself and trust myself and know I'm enough in. And then there's other things related to body image that are still challenges for me to this day. As I've been so blessed to meet amazing people like you, like Oprah Winfrey, like there's so many people, right? And I share this, Oprah read the book cover to cover, and she was the first person that read my manuscript. And because I wanted her blessing to share a few things in the book, not about, oh, how cool is it that Oprah's my mentor, but, oh, I'm still scared to call her. I share some real stuff in this book about some real work I'm still doing in real time, because I think that we're all works in progress on this lifelong journey. And, I won't go into like all of the stuff, but I share in the book for the first time ever about how I knew my whole life. I just had a feeling I was going to meet Oprah. And when I finally did, and she invited me to her house for lunch, and we had this 3-hour lunch, just the two of us. And when I left the lunch that day, and this was 3 years ago, she gave me her cell phone number, and she said, you can call me anytime, like call me anytime. And I freaked out internally, and I was like, absolutely. Thank you so much. Here's my cell phone number. And to this day, Chase, when I have something I want to share with her, I want to, say a prayer for her, I want to inspire her, or I want to ask her advice on something, or whatever it is, I will text her or email. And by the way, when she writes back over text and I see the 3 dots, like I still freak out. I screenshot it sometimes. I will text her and I will email. I have not called her. I've not called her. And I had this big realization fairly recently, and I wasn't proud of it. And I realized, oh, wow, I still don't believe deep down inside that I'm at the same like vibration level as Oprah to just call her up. And that's something I'm working on in real time, because I know that's a lie. I know every one of us, every human being is worthy of calling each other up. You know what I mean? Like, we're all the same. We're all connected. We're all in this life together. Like, we all have the same hopes and doubts and fears. And so, for me, it's really a work in progress. There's a lot of areas in my life I've figured it out. And so I'm now working on applying some of those same principles and lessons to different areas of my life, and to making better decisions. And I think too, the better we get at it, we also learn to trust ourselves when not to trust ourselves, right? For, starting a company with my partner. And then we both ended up working 100-hour weeks for 10 years. And I share all about that too, because a lot of people either are or are thinking about starting a dream with a friend or a family member or a partner. And, that comes with so much, right? And to this day, part of why I decided to sell the company was because I learned to trust myself, to not trust myself, that if I stayed running it and owning it all, I would still probably be addicted to work and still probably be working 100-hour weeks and still probably not have had a baby, all the things. Because we tried for 10 years while working 100-hour weeks to have a baby. And it was just a crazy journey. And so anyways, I made the decision in big part to sell the company because I didn't trust myself. I trusted myself enough to not trust myself that I wouldn't miss out on life. And so it's all a big journey, and that it's all a work in progress. And to this day, I think it will be the rest of our lives for all of us. That's one of the things too, is like, I feel so grateful to be able to share all of the things I learned, all the lessons I've learned so far in life and in business, that I hope and pray are of service to other people and save them, nights crying themselves to sleep and self-doubt and hopefully time and money and all those things. But I think that for the rest of my life, I'll be a work in progress too, still really trying to figure it all out as I go and overcome all that not enough-ness that all of us have at deep levels.
It's so true that this story is so much bigger than a billion-dollar brand or, overcoming obstacles. As you say, we're all in this together. But there's this, it's hard to overstate the feeling that I have about that this is, in the particular, I think it's James Joyce, in the particular lies the universal. And your story is the story of so many of us.
Ladies and gentlemen, rock this house and welcome to the stage, Jamie Kern Lima! Baby Kern Lima!
Every single one of us has had someone tell us we're not enough. Every single one of us has had someone say words to us that hurt.